All right, let's just jump right into it. Today's explainer fundamentally flips how we view productivity and hesitation in the workplace. I mean, have you ever looked at your team, or maybe even caught yourself, and wondered why a seemingly simple decision suddenly spirals into this endless loop of consultation and overthinking? Well, we're going to unpack that today. And what we find might honestly change how you lead entirely.
So I want to challenge a massive, almost universal corporate assumption. The idea that overthinking is always a negative, individual bug that we just need to optimize away. What if, instead of being a glitch in the system, it's actually a deeply embedded ancestral safety protocol? Sounds a little wild, right? But the data actually backs this up.
Just a quick roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the productivity assumption, then uncover this ancestral caution signal, look at some divergent cultural interpretations, map out the escalation of misalignment, introduce something called AI vibe coding, and wrap up with the algebra of conscience. Let's get into it.
Part 1. The productivity assumption, redefining the cognitive glitch.
Okay, so you know how we usually divide business, right? We've got the hard, measurable math, think spreadsheets, logistics, KPIs, and then we have the soft, messy, unmeasurable human vibes. Well, this hard-line division creates these incredibly rigid frameworks. They tend to view analysis paralysis as a complete and utter dysfunction. The standard corporate playbook basically says, hey, this is an individual cognitive bias and it's killing our velocity. If someone hesitates, the machine just assumes they're broken. And how do we fix them? Usually with a time management seminar or by slamming them with a stricter deadline. Sound familiar?
Part 2. The ancestral caution signal, finding the purple correlation.
Now here is where things get truly fascinating. When we look at global polling data, specifically diving into the purple stage of spiral dynamics, which, if you remember, is the mindset deeply focused on tribal safety, shared rituals, and moving as a collective, a massive anomaly pops up. We see this really strong positive Pearson correlation of 0.2436 linking analysis paralysis directly to this purple tribal mindset.
And just to put that into perspective, this isn't just statistical noise. Drawn from a really solid sample size across 5 different languages, this correlation easily beats the statistical critical value. It's highly significant. That means this specific group genuinely, intensely identifies with analysis paralysis. But why? What's actually happening here?
Well, the crucial contrast is that this purple mindset experiences overthinking entirely differently. It's not an individual delay. It is experienced as ancestral wisdom. It's literally a signal that demands collective consultation. They're internally saying, wait, we need to consult the circle. We have to honor the pattern before we act. And what's really beautiful here is that the data shows they simultaneously reject simple external distractions. Like checking their phones or getting sidetracked isn't the issue. Relational alignment just matters way more to them than individual task metrics. They aren't distracted, they're protecting the tribe.
Part 3. Divergent cultural interpretations. Same factor, different logics.
This leads us to a huge divergence. It's literally the exact same behavior, hesitating before a decision, but different psychological profiles interpret it with completely different internal logics. You present analysis paralysis to an organization, and these 3 mindsets completely split. Purple, as we saw, sees an ancestral caution signal and actively seeks consultation. But blue? Blue sees procedural uncertainty. They just want clearer rules and role clarity so they can move forward safely. Meanwhile, orange, which is all about achievement and scaling, views that exact same hesitation as an efficiency drag. They demand rapid prototyping to just break the deadlock. It's the same factor, but 3 entirely different languages.
Part 4. The escalation of misalignment, when productivity breaks resonance.
So what happens when we ignore this? How does it build into a systemic failure? Well, it happens when rigid productivity frameworks completely ignore that purple ancestral logic. Imagine you have a management system built entirely on orange efficiency metrics, and you punish a purple tribal group for consulting their circle by labeling it a cognitive bias or just straight-up indecision. When you do that, you are literally pathologizing their ancestral wisdom. You disconnect the very nodes of their cultural trust because your metrics are wrongly prizing individual velocity over collective alignment.
And the scary part? The fallout isn't some dramatic explosion. It's a slow leak. It's a quiet, downward cascade. It starts with framing their care as an individual bias, which leads to ancestral disconnection. Then, the team starts doing what I call performative decisiveness. Just making quick, hollow decisions to keep the boss's dashboard green, but with 0 real buy-in. Finally, it just bottoms out into a silent resonance drift. People mentally check out. The system looks perfectly fine on a spreadsheet, but the actual soul of the team has completely fractured.
Part 5. AI Vibe Coding, Calculating the Butterfly Effects.
To prevent this silent collapse, we're looking at a massive trend heading into 2026. It merges cold math directly with human psychology. It takes the messy, unpredictable reality of human behavior and turns it into a rigorous dynamic programming model. Think of it as an AI vibe coding simulator. It's powered by over 13,000 distinct psychological correlations, allowing you to map a team's worldview profile against specific management actions, so you can actually predict outcomes before you ever make a move.
Here's how it breaks down. First, the state vector maps the exact psychological makeup of your team. Are they purple, tribal, orange, achievement, something else? Then you have control actions. Let's use a real example from the source data, an unpaid vacation policy. If you plug that action into a purple tribal team, the algorithm predicts they actually bond over it. They view it as a shared ritual sacrifice to save their tribe. But plug that exact same action into an orange sales team, they view it as a massive roadblock to their personal success, and they immediately start updating their resumes. Finally, the model uses objective weights to mathematically penalize the system for spiking fear or destroying well-being. It treats human fallout as a heavy operational cost.
Part 6. The Algebra of Conscience, Formalizing the Soul of a Company.
What this means is we're finally moving beyond the old chainsaw approach to management, where you just cut costs and completely ignore the human collateral. By tracking these deeply embedded layers of motivation, fear, and worldview, this algebra forces us to align with the conscience of the collective. It mathematically proves that a toxic workplace is fundamentally inefficient. It literally turns treat people well into a solvable mathematical theorem for stability. You can basically A/B test your leadership to find the path of least psychological resistance.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought. If an algorithm crunching 13,000 correlations can map the ancestral safety needs of your team better than human intuition can, if empathy is genuinely computable now, how are you going to navigate the hidden wiring of your own organization? Are you going to keep optimizing away the overthinking, or will you start honoring the pattern? Thanks for diving into this explainer with me. Keep examining those hidden signals and never stop learning.